Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we're talking about Makita's 40V max half-inch drive mid-torque impact wrenches. This one right here is the one with the friction ring. They do make one with the pin detent. It is exactly the same as this one except for the pin detent, right? So on their XGT lineup, it runs on 40V max, 36V type thing. We're going to be going over all of that stuff. It does run a premium just like all the Makita XGT stuff does, but the question we really want to answer is, with that premium, do you get premium performance or other premium benefits? Right? That's what everybody really wants to know. This has other benefits included, but it also has a like really complicated user interface, and someone's probably going to say, wow, you probably need a PhD to look at that, right? So we're going to go over the user menu and kind of see what all that stuff does. We're going to go over this impact wrench top to bottom. We're going to test it with the 2.5, the 4, and the 8 and see how it really stacks up against other impact wrenches we've tested so far, and also maybe potentially compared to impact drivers we've tested so far, right? So the results may or may not surprise you. You may not want to miss this. Stick with us. So like I mentioned right here, this is the GWT07, and that is the friction ring model for the mid-torque impact wrench. The pin detent impact wrench is GWT08. If you buy them as a tool only, they end with a Z. If you buy it as a kit, usually they sell it with a 2.5 amp hour kit, and depending on other batteries and models available in other areas, or other regions of the world, they may have like a D1 or M1 or some type of model number after that. So just know that. But you can either buy it as a tool only or a kit, and if you buy it as a kit, it only comes with a 2.5 amp hour here in the States. All right. So like I mentioned earlier, the XGT platform is 36V platforms. That's like people say like 40V max, but it's really operating at 36 volts. And this has a mid-torque impact wrench, and they also have a high torque impact wrench and a traditional lower torque impact wrench. So this is right in the middle. So we're going to go over some of the marketing hype. Let's get into it. So this right here is a 40V max XGT Brushless Cordless 4-speed mid-torque half-inch square drive impact wrench with the friction ring. This impact wrench is designed and ideal for automotive installation and fabrication. The impact wrench combines extended runtime and speed control for unmatched fastening performance. It is powered by a Makita-built brushless motor for longer runtime. The brushless motor delivers 560 foot-pounds of fastening torque and 810 inch-pounds of nut-busting torque. The electronically controlled brushless motor delivers or efficiently uses energy to match torque and RPM to changing demand of the application. The precise fastening control is achieved through 4-speed selection switch, which accounts for a wider range of applications. The additional precision features include 3 forward and 3 reverse rotation, auto stop modes, and a full speed mode that reduces trigger pull to reach full speed. The GWT07 features the exclusive XPT technology. Pretty much all of the Makita XGT stuff does, or even the LXC stuff does, and it's got all the standard XGT stuff. It is also backed by their standard 3-year limited lifetime warranty. The compact and ergonomic design, it puts it only right around 6 11/16 of an inch. Let's talk about the 4-speed modes that got going on here. On low speed, 0 to 600, speed 2, 0 to 1200, speed 3, 0 to 1900, and on speed 4, it's got 0 to 2300. I'm not going to go over all the IPM ranges, but it ranges anywhere between 0 to 1200 for low and 0 to 2900 for high RPMs. It also has a reinforced gear housing for job site durability, and it has the flexible joint which isolates the battery from the grip to help reduce the wear on the battery contact. All right, so this right here is obviously the left-hand part of the tool, and all this standard black stuff here is rubber overmolded. It's got this rubber overmolded boot right here in the front, so it helps protect against hitting up against other, like metal parts or other damaging things here. Let's talk about the obvious elephant here in the room. Here is this really big rafter hook, and it's a pretty big rafter hook. You can comfortably fit it on decent sized piping, or like 2x4 or something like that, if you were using it up on or needed to put it on something like that, right? So, but other than that, it pretty much feels like the standard Makita ergonomics in terms of the handle. As mentioned earlier in the marketing hype, it's got this loosened or decoupled handle and battery components. So when it is impacting, and it will impact pretty hard, it doesn't, it kind of isolates the rest of the controls and the battery from the impacts from the impact wrench. So that actually is a nice feature. The forward reverse switch is pretty standard here, but you know, it'll also say brushless here, and it'll also say brushless one more time on the back here, just so that you know your tool is brushless, okay? Talking about the back here, it's pretty flat here. Normally on some Makita devices, and most, so you'll probably see some type of fall rest type system where you can hook a lanyard or something like that in here. In this case, you really could just tie it into the rafter hook you got going in on here. I would imagine most people, you know, in automotive work, probably taking this up, because this will just get in the way since it's too big. But in the places that we use it, like or the places that we use it, we actually use the rafter hook pretty well. So there's that. Moving around to the other side of the tool, it's exactly the same as that side, except no rafter hook sticking out on this side. But if you did want to put the rafter hook on this side, you can, you know, swap it. So that's pretty straightforward there. So let's go talk about the front. As you can see here, it has the half-inch drive friction ring. If you had the pin detent model, you know, obviously there will be a pin detent. This part right here is pretty flat. The light or the LED is sticking out right here, right where the trigger control is, and the trigger control is pretty good. And we're gonna drill into that in a moment as we go through the user interface, okay? So let's get into the user interface. So if you look at the user interface here, you're probably gonna say, wow, it's got a ton of stuff going on. Like, what in the world do all of those LEDs mean? So first of all, this hammer looking icon right here is the impact mode range or selection that you can press. Right now, this is mode 4, and Makita calls mode 4 max, which goes 2,900 RPMs, and then there's mode hard, which is number 3, 2,700 RPMs, mode medium, which is 1,900, and mode 1, which is soft, which is 1,200, okay? So there's about 4 modes there, and you can alternate through that just by pressing the button there. And then let's talk, before we get into bolt mode, let's go talk about full speed mode. Actually, before that, let's talk about this LED mode here. So this little headlight looking icon, light looking icon, as you would see in a car, pretty much means, you know, this LED comes off. Right now it's off, right? So nothing is happening. But if you press it, it will come on, right? So turning the LED on and off is actually pretty simple with the press of a button. We're just gonna turn it off for now. There's that. So you see right here, there is a little RPM looking icon with the LED stuck next to it. What that means is full speed mode. And from the manual, it says when full speed mode is turned on, the tool becomes the fastest even if you do not pull the trigger fully. When the full speed mode is turned off, the tool speed increases as you increase pressure on the switch. And what that pretty much means is this full speed mode means the variable speed response of the trigger changes, right? So with full speed mode on, you'll probably get maximum speed roughly maybe like 1/3 or 25% into trigger pull, and we'll demonstrate that in a second. And with full speed mode off, you know, the variable speed will be a lot more linear. So full speed mode on, just think of it as trigger response is more exponential, whereas full speed mode off, the trigger response is linear. So let's go and dig into that, all right? So let's start with mode 4. So here's mode 4 with the full speed mode off. Here we go. Right? So turn full speed mode on, which is indicated by this LED here. So check this out. So it still is variable speed in terms of like the first few millimeter, let's say, into the trigger pull, it is quite low, right? So check this. And then right around like 25 to maybe 33% into the trigger pull, it will become maximum speed. And that changes depending on the mode that you're in, right? So right now, mode 4, actually no, the trigger response will stay the same, but you know, the max high RPM speed will change depending on the mode, obviously, okay? So now let's talk about bolt mode, which gets really confusing because bolt mode, pretty much the thing to take away from here is that it impacts and then automatically will stop, okay? And the other thing that makes it really confusing is that the full speed mode is enabled, or you can use it on boat mode or on just regular mode. So let's turn that off and let's go through this for a second. So boat mode 1, right? So the way that's indicated is that this LED will stay on, and this LED indicated staying on has this legend here saying, you know, something that's like half illuminated. Like these first 3 squares here are pretty much the options you can use, right? So you can alternate through that just by pressing this mode. So let's talk about boat mode 1. Tool stops automatically as soon as it stops impacted in the forward mode. And then if you go into reverse mode, the impact force is 4 and the tool will stop automatically as soon as it has stopped, right? So, you know, that's pretty standard, pretty obvious. In the boat mode 2, the tool stops automatically half a second later from the moment the tool has started impacting. And then a counterclockwise reverse mode, the impact force is 4 and then the tool will stop automatically about 0.2 seconds later after it has stopped impacting, allow you to just pull like the nuts or bolts off pretty quickly without having just them flying across the room, right? So mode 3, the tool stops impacting automatically 1 second later in forward mode after it started impacting. And in counterclockwise mode, the tool stops rotating after it has stopped impact blows. So it's really confusing in the way you look at it. The only thing you really need to know is it pretty much changes how much the impact is going to continue to happen after it starts, okay? Forward mode and reverse mode. And like I said, you can also use a full speed mode in this mode, which, you know, has a lot of applications. So I can't imagine too many people needing all the modes. I could imagine to come with a couple of the modes, right? Like for instance, like bolt mode, if you're taking off a bunch of nuts and stuff like that, you're probably good to use it, mainly because you don't want them just flying across the room all the time. But in like forward fastening mode, there may be some things you might want to tighten, right, using an impact wrench and then just come back later with like a torque wrench, right? So that's also useful. But you know, a lot of times people will use it, a lot of times won't. Some people just use on their variables to be trigger skills or whatnot, but you know, there is that. So with all that stuff being said, this tool does have electronic brake, obviously, right? Because how would you stop quickly? But this tool does have electronic brake, which does generally seem to work pretty well, as demonstrated earlier. But just in case you didn't catch it, let's do it again. Here we go. All right, so some of those numbers went by quick, and there's a lot of it, so let's get into it, all right? So in order to stop repeating myself a lot, let's go ahead and talk about the 3 tests that we run. With each test, we did start it with the tool being at room temperature, okay? So time went by between these tests, and we ran each test all the way with the battery, so just know that. So we run 3 tests, 8-inch timber lock tests are light-duty tests. The 5/6 by 6-inch lag is our medium duty test, and the heavy duty test is the 1/2 by 8-inch lag. And we run 3 tests, and we take the average of the 3 runs, okay? Actually, somebody, one of the subs mentioned it previously, or somebody mentioned in one of the comments previously, just do more runs and then just capture the 3 that are tightest. So one thing we actually started doing is we started doing 4 runs, and we're taking pretty much the 3 best numbers, okay? So that is a little bit of a change than what we've done previously, which is we only took 3 runs, okay? So right now, we're taking, like I said, 4 runs and taking 3 of the best, unless there is one just wildly different, right? Like if the 3 numbers are around 11, 12, and 10 or something, and there's one that came in at like 20, yeah, we'll throw that one out, right? Or one that came in at like 5, right? We'll throw that one out, right? So just take that with the great, just know that, okay? So, I'm just going to talk about the averages. So with the 2.5 amp hour battery on the light duty test, the average of 3 runs was 3.39. On the medium duty test, it was 3.55. On the heavy duty test, it was 12.13. And the tool weight, of this tool and the 2.5 amp hour battery is 6.06 pounds, okay? With the 4 amp hour battery, we did test it, like I said, after tool cooled down fully. The average of the light duty test was 3.84, medium duty test was 3.69, and the heavy duty test was 15.14 seconds, or on average, right? And the tool weight and battery combination weight came in for the 4 amp hour battery at 6.72 seconds, all right? Moving on to the big 8 amp hour battery. This battery is heavy just as it is, all right? So let's go talk about it. On the light duty test, 3.96. On the medium duty test, 4.03. And on the heavy duty test, 12.35, okay? The weight of the tool and the 8 amp hour battery is 8.59 pounds, all right? So that's getting pretty much up there. That's almost like a 9-pound tool. Who wants to be using a 9-pound tool all day, right? So let's go look at total performance number. How do we get that? We take the sum of the averages. Let's put it on the screen. So the 2.5 amp hour battery has a 19.07, and that puts it in 4th place. The 4 amp hour battery has 22.66, which is slower than the 2.5, which puts it in 8th place. And then the 8 amp hour has 20.33, which puts it in 5th place, all right? So looking at the leaderboard, the 2.5 amp hour battery is right behind the Milwaukee 2962, which is the Gen 2 with the 6 amp hour high output. And then right behind that is the same tool with the 8 amp hour battery. And then we got the Makita HPT 36 volt mid-torque impact wrench with the 4 amp hour multi-volt battery. And then we got the Ryobi with the 3 amp hour high output or high performance battery, which is the P262. Compared with that battery, and then we got the impact wrench with the 4 amp hour battery, right? So there is that. So let's go back and look at the numbers that are currently on the screen and dig into that just a little bit, okay? So the 4 amp hour battery compared to the 2.5 amp hour battery, medium duty or light duty test, it was just a little bit slower, right? 3.39 versus 3.84, tad slower. On the medium duty test, it was 3.55 versus 3.69, so a tad slower. And on the heavy duty test, it actually was quite a bit slower, 12.13 versus 15.14, right? So it's almost about 3 seconds slower. The general rule of thumb that I'll like to point out here is, the material that we're working with is not always going to be perfect. It is KD pine, right? And even though we got it all at the same time, and pretty much glue lammed it up, we don't know what in the world's going on in the middle. We can't really say, everything's being apples to apples. So the one thing I like to keep in mind is, anything that's like plus or minus like somewhere between maybe like 2 to 3 seconds is all within the margin of error. There's not a huge difference there, okay? It may add up over time, but there's that. So the 4 amp hour battery performed a little bit less or slower than the 2.5. That's not surprising. We have seen lower amp hour batteries perform a little bit better with tools before, so there's that. Let's go look at with the 8 amp hour battery. 8 amp hour battery I'm going to compare it to the 2.5, but all the other numbers are on the screen, is 3.96 versus the 3.39 on the 2.5. The 8 amp hour was on the medium duty test is 4.03 seconds versus the 3.55 on the medium duty test. Compared to the 2.5, so it's a little bit slower. So if you just look at those on the screen, the 8 amp hour battery was slower on the light duty test and the medium duty test, but where you know, impact wrench decided, oh yeah, I got to come to work today. On the heavy duty test, it said, yeah, I'm gonna get to work here. So it pretty much said 12.35, which is actually close to the 2.5 amp hour battery with the 12.13, right? 12.35, 12.13, that's really close within the margin of error, and it was significantly faster, right around, you know, 3 seconds or so, than the 4 amp hour battery, okay? So what does that tell us? Makita knows, I would say they pretty much know what they're doing. They probably know this, which is why when they sell the impact wrench as a kit, you get 2.5 amp hour batteries, right? So let's go talk about that. If you buy this tool, the GWT07 or the GWT08, if you buy it as a tool only, it'll cost you somewhere around $369. If you buy it as a kit, it'll cost you somewhere around $579. And with $579, you'll get two 2.5 amp hour batteries. No, you cannot in the States buy this tool with a 4 amp hour kit or a 5 amp hour kit or an 8 amp hour. You only buy it as a kit with a 2.5. So Makita knows something. They already know what they're doing, obviously, to sell it like that. And you know, the other thing to take away from here is the tool is getting heavier as you put the bigger battery on it. You don't always want to be using a hard, you know, heavy tool, especially if you're under, I don't know, a car or working overhead or whatever, right? So they pretty much figured that out, right? The thing that we really want to take away from here is that the 2.5 amp hour battery seems to work the best with this tool. Like I said before, it's not the first time we've seen this, so there are cases where some of that stuff works out. I don't know how they figured that out, but you know, there is that. So what can we say about the tool? This is a good tool. Makita's built a pretty solid tool. Does it really, you know, demand that premium pricing? I think being on XGT and being the new kid on the block, yes, probably. Do you get or do you need all the premium benefits that come out of this tool with the user interface? I don't know. That's really going to be up to you. Do I really need that? Personally, no. Mainly, like I said, we use it for mainly construction, and then every once in a while, use it for like other stuff, like automotive work, mainly because we do work on our own cars and tractors, but that's a different story. But you know, that's not what we use this tool day in, day out for. So, like I mentioned before, we did buy this tool. Nobody sent this to us, so take that into account, I guess, as you're talking about this. But if you're gonna ask the question, would I go and buy this tool again? If I'm looking for the Makita impact wrench on this platform, yeah, we'll definitely buy this tool again. But if you're trying to get into this and you're buying your first impact wrench, would I encourage you to buy this? I don't know. It depends on, you know, what your budget range is. Only you can figure out what you like and what other tool platform you're going to be in, because most people buying tools are going to buy tools based on the battery platform they're in and not necessarily based on price, right? So I will go out and say there are other impact wrenches, you know, obviously on the leaderboard that you can see that you can buy that will perform a little bit better. You know, is that going to be the right fit for you? Nobody knows. Only you can tell, right? But there are impact wrenches you can get for similar, if not same performance or better, and even some with a better warranty for much less, right? So there is that. But would I go and buy it again? Mainly because I have a bunch of XGT tools. I would do it again. Would I tell you? Probably. Yeah, go do that. So otherwise, like I said, hope this video helped you guys out. Hopefully the numbers and stuff like that with the testing with all different kind of batteries really lets you know some information. I'm really here just to give you the numbers. Only you can figure out what you really need to do. Otherwise, have a great day. Get back to work, and we'll see you guys next time.